The 106th edition of the Roy's Boys podcast starts right now.
It's not about you. It's about the name on the front of your jersey.
Ready on his second attempt. That one is no good. They battle for it. Loose ball. Recovered Marvin. He pushes in here, Davis. 8 seconds. Davis trying to get free. Over to Fox. Fox, baseline. Up with the shot. Good. Off there. Oklahoma calls timeout. But the game is over. The game is over. Carolina has upset number 1 Oklahoma.
With 20 seconds left to play. Goes back to Michael Jordan. Jumper from out on the left. Good. 63-62. 13, 12, 11. Georgetown with one timeout. Fred Brown looking. Oh, way to Worthy. Worthy 5. The Tar Heels are going to win the national championship.
Rebounded by Weber. Michigan out of timeout. Weber front court. Carolina with foul. He takes the timeout. They're out of timeout. Technical foul. Technical foul. Brown gets it into Williams. Here comes Williams front court. Williams on the drive. Gets it back out the head. Long outside shot. Short. Rebounded. It's over. Carolina has won the national championship. How about them Tar Heels? They are the national champions.
That's it! Make room for 2017. The Tar Heels are the national dadgum champions.
That's what it's all about right there. That's on the floor. That's on your shirt. That's in your heart. That's why we're all here.
This is the Roy's Boys podcast with your host, Joshua Marlowe.
Hey, everybody. Welcome into another edition of the Roy's Boys podcast. We are powered by Carolina Electrical Services. Anthony, I don't know if you know this.
Damn. That was a quick cut out of the read there. That was phenomenal.
But I know this.
We're excited.
Roy Williams is a winner.
No, he's not.
And
he's the winner.
The winner.
Okay.
Kevin Keats is not. Carolina, like they do every time they go to Raleigh, they go into what's always a hostile PNC Arena. We refer to it as the home of Marcus Page and Luke May. And they beat the Wolfpack. If there was ever a year that you felt like NC State would beat Carolina on their home court, this was the year. The Heels were once again without Cole Anthony, Jeremiah Francis, Anthony Harris, Sterling Manley. Brandon Robinson left the game, I believe it was 3 times, to go get retaped or get some treatment done when he got hit in the ribs. And NC State still just not good enough, not tough enough to beat Carolina on their home court, to the dismay of their fan base, which was typical last night with their antics, cheering when players got injured. Just another reason why they're just really an embarrassment to humanity. And
yeah,
I think...
Should I pick up here?
No, I'm not done. I think what I took away from yesterday, and I told you this when we talked after the game. Welcome to the 2020 college basketball season, North Carolina. It is go time. You're now 10-10. You're 3-6 in the ACC. Looking up, you've got a home game against Boston College on Saturday. You feel like you're going to win, and we've talked about it. As bad as it was, it's not over. And it's time to go play.
Yeah, you're spot on. I wanted to touch on the State fans that are just classless assholes, and they deserve that.
I was wanting us to keep this PG. But...
Oh, that's explicit, and I don't even really care because these fans are some of the worst in all of sports. Right up there with Philadelphia natives who eat crap from horses off the street. So, yeah, these people are terrible. There's a guy that wanted to point out to me after I tweeted out, an App State fan that wanted to point out to me that we booed players during this past football season. Clearly, there's a difference between booing a player that is running up to the line of scrimmage, realizes that there aren't enough players on the field, falls down, and then when the training staff comes up and helps him, sprints off the field, as opposed to Brandon Robinson, who physically had to be picked up by trainer Doug Halverson and walked off the court. There is a massive difference. And if you can't realize that, you're a dumbass idiot. I don't really care. And look, this is not supposed to be a rivalry. These people are trash humans. If you would seriously boo someone that was playing through clear injury and playing with a heavy heart as well. So, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much where I stand on that. As for Carolina dominating State, nothing different. I wipe my rear end with stuff that's tougher than State at this point. So, yeah, I mean, let's be real honest. It shouldn't really come as much of a shock. We picked Carolina to win the game because, let's focus on Carolina now and not those bunch of
I thought I was the
morons.
host of this podcast. What's going on?
Oh, there you go. But I think, if you look at what Carolina did for the third straight game, they looked confident shooting the basketball. You could tell that there was better movement without the basketball. Again, the assist number dropped from a ridiculous 32 to 10. So it's a huge disparity. But Carolina still looked like the team that we thought they could be even after Cole Anthony went down injured. We knew this team had something in them. They were so beat up. I think that guys like Brandon Robinson are realizing that it's time to step up as leaders, as veteran guys on this team, including and especially Garrison Brooks, who, now look, he has 9 double-doubles on the entire season. 7 of those have come in the last 8 games. So he's realizing that he needs to step up. Jay Billis pointed it out that he was a guy that last year was really seen as a guy that was a role player as a starter. He was out there to play good defense, maybe give you a bucket or two here and there, and that was really it because you had Cam Johnson, you had Kobe White. Now Garrison realizes that he needs to take over. Another great performance last night, 25 and 11. But I think the focus really when we talk about this game is just on Brandon Robinson and how great he played while honoring Kobe Bryant.
Yeah, grown man game from Garrison Brooks, Little Jerv, Mr. Pickle, whatever you want to call him. This become the norm for him. We now almost expect him to give us 20 and 10, and he did that last night. Brandon Robinson, if Roy Williams is a winner, Brandon Robinson embodies the tough little nut comparison that he loves to use. When
I went with Warrior as well. I thought that was very very fitting.
This was a guy that returned on after to the Miami game after having to miss the Virginia Tech game with ailments from a car accident he was in 2 weeks ago. Dropped 29 in that game. He only gave you 11 points last night, but he made 7 free throws, and every time that Carolina needed to hit the foul shots, he made them. And it was just more, I think he inspired this team because when you see a guy go to the locker room and then come back, and then he goes back to the locker room and comes back, and then a third time goes to the locker room and comes back, that's inspiring. I think it made Carolina play a little more tougher than NC State. I think there was more of a will to win. And just, he's a guy that understands he's a senior. It's his last time playing in Raleigh. You want to go 4-0 in that building. He did that. And this team now looks awake because they understand they got some confidence. You're looking at the standings, and there's a way to climb the ladder. In the ACC, as I lost my train of thought, they're 10 and 10. They got 3 quad 1 wins. That's the tied for most in the ACC. So
right,
the resume aspect part of it, which I know they're not focusing on internally, we kind of are focusing on that. They're going to have a chance to continue to build that as we hit this stretch of games coming up in February. And it's amazing what Saturday can do for this team. We talked about how you lose a game or two, how it snowballs, and that it clearly happened for Carolina. Well, you can easily string together a handful of wins.
Right.
And they have a chance to do that. You've got Boston College at home on Saturday. You got 5 days to get healthy. Cole Anthony tweeted he's just waiting to get cleared. So he's on the verge of coming back. You're going to be a lot more confident with him in the lineup. So it's time to go. This team appears to be ready. I thought one of the things that was really important from last night's game, Leaky Black's confidence has really changed since the Virginia Tech game. I wrote about it. He looks a lot more comfortable running the offense. He talked about that in the postgame last night. But took some shots. I mean, he missed 2 3-pointers that were albeit wide open that you would want him to make.
Right.
But I was okay. Well, at least he's got the confidence to take that shot. 2 weeks ago, he's still passing that shot up. And he was more aggressive attacking the hole. His defense last night was phenomenal. His closeouts on perimeter shooters from NC State was great. Because I've said it all year long. As bad as Carolina's been offensively, if they were going to turn this thing around, it was going to start on the defensive end. And last night, they were great defensively. C.J. Bryce, State's leading score, scoreless. Didn't score a point. 0 of 8 from the field, 0 of 8 from 3.
Right.
After State cut it to 4, they went over 5 minutes without a field goal. Carolina just kind of just let the game breathe and stuff like that. And they're turning into a team because now they're playing both ends of the floor very well, which this team has to.
Yeah, I think Leaky Black is kind of an embodiment of this whole team right now. This is a team that really lacked confidence, and it seemed that Pittsburgh game sort of changed things. I think they saw, look, we came out in the first half pretty much defeated. We knew we weren't going to play well. Second half, you came out, and if that first half doesn't happen or even is a little bit better effort, you probably win that game because Pittsburgh could not put you away. And, you've talked about Pittsburgh being one of those young teams in the ACC that on a year, in a year in college basketball where there is just a lot of, the words slip in my mind here as I was thinking. Parity. I think that they gained some confidence and said to themselves, look, if we put in a full effort, we are good enough to be able to win games in this conference. And now, you've beat Miami, who's not that great. You beat an NC State team that, people are saying, okay, well, they have a chance to make the NCAA tournament. Again, their resume is not looking great now either. So that's good. And, for Carolina, it's kind of gotten to this point. I think you have to start watching some of the other teams around the country too and kind of comparing where Carolina's at. Last night after our game was over, I watched Wisconsin and Iowa, and you look at Wisconsin, and you're starting to compare yourself to these teams. A couple of weeks ago, we would have said, why are we even watching these other games? We should not be comparing anybody to Carolina. This team's not making the tournament. But now, the last 3 games, and one of them even being a loss, you can sense that this is a team that, like you said, is starting to come together and starting to feel it. One of the guys that I think deserves to be pointed out, and I know he didn't play great. I know that if you go back and look at this stat sheet a couple of years from now, you're not going to say, okay, wow, what a game from him. Christian Keeling hit 2 of the biggest shots of the night after State cut it down to 4.
Look, he scored 4 points on 3 field goals.
Right.
That's not playing
exactly
bad.
What he had to do. He hit 2 very big shots to help keep this Carolina team where they needed to be. Because there was at one point where State had cut it to 3, which was the closest they got in the second half outside of the first possession when they scored to make it a 2-point game. Carolina pulled away a little bit, but that was the moment where we were all kind of sitting there after they came out of a timeout, and we were like, oh, no, please don't let this be like the Virginia Tech game again. But, Carolina responded, and it's guys that you wouldn't have expected with how they have been playing this year. Keeling and Pierce.
The thing I've said all year long, this is I'm probably going to get some flack for this. I know I freaked after Georgia Tech.
No.
I freaked after Clemson.
Stop.
I still thought deep down that this team was capable of winning games at a very high level.
We said that.
But I also said if that's going to happen, Keeling, Pierce, those guys, they've got to play better.
KJ Smith playing well.
I'm glad you brought up the Keeling thing because I was going to bring it up.
Yeah.
Because when he took those 2 shots, I was in there and I was like, you've got to be tough enough to make that play. And he was tough enough to get a good look and then make the good look. KJ Smith, this was Oregon-esque in terms of – because Leaky Black was in foul trouble the whole second half.
Yep.
Because he got called for 2 fouls that weren't fouls, and that happens.
Yeah, rough officiating on both ends last night. Ooh.
It was whenever he got thrown into action, and we just needed him, okay, well, let's get us to the under 12 timeout. Just run the offense. Don't turn the ball over. Stay in front of the ball. He did that. And This team needs that. And so it's
what was the feeling